So one thing that people always ask me is, Sean, why did you move to China when you were 22? And it's an interesting story. I think it's interesting, and other people seem to think so too. You might find it boring as hell. Your choice. Your preference, I should say. But here's the thing. Growing up, I loved Japanese culture. Japanese culture just caught my attention. Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, Gundam Wing. I used to watch all of those as a kid. And, I got into the Japanese music, and eventually I made up my mind that I wanted to move to Japan when I got older. So, about the time that I was 19, 20 years old, I went on this pen pal website called World Friends, and I was going to try to find a Japanese pen pal to practice the language with. Well, at that time, I had just seen a movie called Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I thought, China looks okay too. That movie was outstanding. Loved it. Zhang Ziyi, Michelle Yeoh. Oh, don't get me started with Michelle Yeoh. Gorgeous lady. Love Michelle Yeoh. But because I had seen that movie, I also reached out to some Chinese people to maybe establish a pen pal relationship with them. And I met one woman who lived in Shanghai. She was 18 and I was 20 at that time. And we started exchanging, emails back and forth, which led to using Yahoo chat back and forth. I think it was Yahoo, maybe it was Yahoo. And we were chatting back and forth, and after several months, I was in love. So I made a plan to go to China to be with her. A year and a half later, I sold everything, I quit my job, and I flew to the opposite side of the world to be together with her. It was my first time leaving my country, leaving my state, actually. I think until that point, I had never even spent a single night away from a member of my family, you know? So it was a huge leap for me. First time on an airplane. I knew maybe a few phrases in Chinese, I love you, well, I ni hao, hello, a couple of bad words. And I flew all the way to China to be with her because, you're young. You're adventurous. You take chances. And that's what I did. So I flew to China when I was 22. And at that point, she was 20. And my visa was, I think, for a few months. And we decided that I would stay in China. So at that time, this was 2006, we got married. 22, 20, which allowed me to get a marriage visa so that I could stay in China on a longer basis. So yeah, that's why I ended up in China. And that's where I fell into teaching. As a foreigner in China at that time, that was really kind of the only thing you could do. There weren't that many options. So I fell into teaching, and 3 years later, got divorced. But that's another story. So anyway, yeah, that's how I ended up in China. Moved there for love, ended up falling into teaching, which led to becoming a manager, and spending a combined total of 14 years there. So yeah, it was an interesting experience to be that young and then going someplace where you couldn't understand what anyone was saying in a small town where you were maybe one of two foreigners in that small town, and every time you went outside people would just stare at you like foreigner, foreigner in Chinese, parents pointing at you, showing you to their children, look, there's a foreigner. So it was an interesting experience. Anyway, that's the story of how I went to China. I might expand on a few more details in the future about what happened afterwards, but thanks for listening. Have a great day. See you guys next time.